Hey guys, so yeah, this one is quite the doozy of an episode to cover, and there's a lot of to cover. So right out of the gate, we pretty much get into a little more detail that Pino's memories have been so wiped clean that she doesn't even remember how she was dropped off in the pretty much past version of Norma, nor even who her master is. And the episode plays it up a bit in the beginning that Professor Weiss, or Weiss in general, is her master. But as we learn later on, her master is in fact Shiki's grandfather, the Demon King. But here's the thing: for as insane a reveal as this is, and it is pretty big, it isn't the key takeaway from which everything we pretty much learn in those first 2 minutes. In fact, it's actually it's in fact just the reveal itself of Shiki's grandfather being Pino's master is actually one of the biggest misdirects of the series in regards to like Pino's current state of mind. The real takeaway is the real takeaway to discuss here is from Pino is the fact that Pino remembers that Ziggy was her master, but she still has no recollection of everything else in regards to her past with him. To put it blatantly, this in itself presents something that I hadn't, looking back, was so obvious to me, which that Ziggy's got something he wanted to hide. Ziggy has something he wanted to hide, and let's just say this isn't going to be the first time that the whole idea of missing memories is going to be brought up. Like, Pino isn't. One thing you'll find going forward is that Pino isn't the only one associated with Ziggy who's had their memories wiped. Like it, it's even looking back. I can't believe I missed on such a key detail, but yeah. Pretty much Ziggy, he himself has, well, to put it bluntly, he's got a couple. I think he's got a couple skeletons in his closet, and he doesn't want anyone learning about them for sure. But yeah, it's like, yeah. Let's just say that among the many different little things you're gonna find moving forward, missing memories is gonna be one of the underlying themes for sure. And it's something I never really appreciated until now. But I kind of like how Prince Weiss, he pretty much starts off as such a degenerate that even after he's that even at that he really the only circumstances as to why he joined Shiki and Rebecca to begin with is that he's just kind of forced to hitch a ride with them over it being that he had warmed up to them. Like, he still is very much this criminal do-gooder thief, and but it weirdly allows the relationships between the three to be built up more naturally. Of course, as we also learned from the escape, that Weiss himself has an ether gear called Machina Maker, which even now I'm kind of hit and miss on his ether gear, because on one hand it is an extremely useful, it is an extremely useful ability in terms of utility and support. And the reveal itself dives into the idea that there are all kinds of ether gear with different functions and skill sets. But as far as this particular ether gear goes, as far as the whole idea of Machina Maker to begin with, it goes in terms of the story. It's one of those abilities that's often underutilized, but still comes in handy where it matters. Like, you will see, you pretty much will see, like, you will see being utilized in a lot of creative ways, but also still underutilized, and still not being used enough as you would like, I think. Um, of course, even bigger than that, though, is that after they escape the planet, they get in contact with Professor Weiss of their time, who just pretty much lets pretty much Shiki and Rebecca know that the planet's time was consumed by an ethereal being called the chronophage. And I'll be honest, these things are the biggest head scratchers in the series for me up even now, because for the first handful of arcs, you'll pretty much find that the chronophages as a concept play a pretty major underlying role, and in general touches more upon just how flexible the rules of time are in this world. In fact, as it stands, we're pretty much diving already into a lot of multiverse rules now, even more beyond just time. But as far as where the story is now in the manga, bit of a spoiler, but the chronophages haven't really been touched on for a while now, and just kind of remain this lingering thread of a mystery. Like, having said that, the anime's opening does more or less confirm a theory I've had for a long time, which is that the chronophages are in some way tied to Mother. So I can only assume that the Prince more we learn about Mother, the Prince more we're going to dive into the origins of the chronophages. But yeah, the chronophages themselves is just kind of dropped off the face of the planet when it comes to their pretty much role in the story, and I don't know like yeah, I just don't know like what exactly when we're gonna dive more into the backstory there. Um, but yeah, obviously the other thing to talk that we obviously want to talk really need to talk about is how our heroes pretty much land from the frying pan and into the fire because they pretty much escape Norma but land in the clutches of Elsie Crimson, the space pirate, who's been pursuing Shiki up to who, as we know through previous episodes, has been pursuing Shiki up to this point. And I'll be honest, kind of a spoiler for anime onlys, but the anime, and by extension Elsie's Seiyu, is really kind of playing up the idea that all this is a facade. It's an act. She's putting on in order to test Shiki and others. Like we pretty much already know she's in a lot of ways, we can already assume that's just pretty much an acquaintance of Shiki's grandfather. So it's one of those things where we're because of like past scenes and past information, it's more than a little obvious that Elsie is playing a part here, and generally there is more this feeling of there is more this kind of obvious feeling of okay, we we, we kind of are we even though it's supposed even though it's being played up as yeah this is serious business, we because of past information we kind of have an idea of how this is generally going to play out from here, even if you're not a manga reader, because even if you're not a manga reader, you can still kind of tell that okay, something is a little bit off here. Again, all because of the buildup we've gotten up to this point. Although, with that said, I really love how the reveal of I really love how the first reveal of Elsie's robotic skull face at the end of the episode was handled. Like when it was first revealed, it started off a little bit less creepy than the manga, but when you finally get that close up of her face, that's where it really got creepy. Um, and yeah, that actually was a little more creepy than the manga overall. One thing one thing I oddly appreciate is the characterization we get of Shiki after Elsie kidnaps them. Like the first thing she says is the first thing Shiki says is I'm gonna steal your ship right from under you. It's a very small moment with Shiki, but it shows even though he might look like a cross between Natsu and Gray, Shiki himself, he's definitely a lot more self-centered and, in a word, pridefully dickish. Like the guy loves, the French guy loves talking smack to people, and I kind of he loves talking smack to people, and he loves saying I'm just gonna wreck your shit. I really kind of appreciate that about his character. It's something I never really appreciated, but now I really am. And yeah, on a much more minor note, obviously the final thing to talk about is the tentacle hentai levels of fan service we got during this little episode. And I don't know if people will believe me or not, but the further the series goes on, the more the fan servicey elements are toned down or used in smarter ways. Like it's one of those. But believe it or not, this is actually the one. Believe it or not, this is actually one of the weird things that Mashima had actually done better than Fairy Tail is from how he implemented the fan service a little more creatively into the story. I know that sounds weird and kind of stupid in some ways, but yeah, it is one thing he's gotten better at is how he implemented the fan service in this story. Um, Now, I guess now, and the only thing I can really think of any problems I might have generally had with this episode is that because of is that it did feel like the pacing was kind of slowed down a bit in order to get us like specifically to in order to get us specifically to that reveal of pretty much of Elsie's face, but I don't know if that was intentional, but it sure came across. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the bell to get notifications, and yeah, just share this around. Death Knight of MMA, signing off. Later, guys.